Neama, good to see you. You and I have been discussing this case several times this week here. You just heard Lisa Evers' report there. What is Judge Subramanian up to here? It seems like he is considering either two tracks right now. Is he kicking the can down the road on the bail question, or is he delaying the resolution to that very question because he is open to arguments from the defense, i.e., possibly will he grant Diddy's bail request here? Help us tease out those scenarios.
Andrew, it's the latter, and I'm surprised. I think ultimately he will deny Diddy's bail motion, but the fact that he's even considering it is really a head scratcher here. Here's someone who is a newer judge, a Biden appointee, has no criminal experience, which isn't necessary to be a federal judge, but really it shows. There are two other judges that really summarily rejected this bail package. Pretrial services, an arm of the court, recommended no bail in this case. So the fact that now Diddy's behavior has been even worse, he hasn't been following the rules in prison. He's using other inmate phone pack numbers. He's making three-way calls. He's allegedly obstructing justice, tampering with witnesses. So the fact that Judge Subramanian took 2 hours to even consider this instead of denying it outright, we'll probably get that ruling next week, is really surprising. And to talk about other cases, there's really no precedent, or there's really no factual similarity aside from the fact that Jeffries is also charged with sex trafficking. Diddy had multiple AR-15s with sawed-off serial numbers. We've seen the video of him beating Cassie Ventura. He's tampering with witnesses. Jeffries is an 80-year-old man who allegedly sex trafficked Abercrombie and Finch models, but it was really more of a fraud type case. These were young men who thought that they were going to be models, then they were duped to participate in these sexual activity and these multiple sexual activity orgies, essentially. But what's happening with Diddy is you're dealing with force, you're dealing with threats, you're dealing with blackmail, and the sheer number of victims, well over 100. The two cases aren't even comparable, in my opinion. So for Judge Subramanian to talk about another case in another jurisdiction merely because one of the charges are the same doesn't really make any sense. Diddy's looking at potential life. He's charged with RICO. Jeffries is not.
Yeah, so you're saying it's really apples to oranges here. And just for viewers, the context, the background, Mike Jeffries indicted on federal sex trafficking charges just a couple of weeks ago, the former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch. And to your point, Neama, this was brought up in court today, trying to find somewhat of similarities or differences because Jeffries was granted bail. But you're saying can't compare them at all here. What I want to talk about with you, though, so many of Diddy's family members, his mother, his children, they appear each and every court hearing, court filing, motion, what have you here. Does that serve Diddy's best interest? Do you think they're being too public-facing as Diddy and his lawyers try to combat this? Should they be a little more lower profile, do you think, or not?
I don't think so. I think this is important for the public relations battle. And it's not just the courtroom, but the court of public opinion. And jurors can't help but be influenced. This is the biggest case in the country right now. Now that Donald Trump has been elected, and we've talked about that, his criminal cases go away. I mean, nothing even compares to Diddy. We're going to be talking about this. It's going to be the biggest trial of 2025. So all the jurors, potential jurors, they're going to walk into that courtroom with some preconceived notions and idea about Diddy's guilt. And the fact that the family is there each and every court appearance, and believe me, Andrew, they're going to be in the front row every day of trial. I'm not going to say that's going to carry the day, but it is important for jurors to know that family members are supporting their loved one who is on trial.
So, Neama, right now, what are the main arguments against granting bail here?
So there's three primary arguments. One, that Diddy is a danger to the community. And really, it's that Cassie Ventura video. The defense is arguing that it was doctored or it was just a moment in time. They're even saying that Cassie was violent herself. Now, as a former prosecutor, that's pretty offensive to me to shame the victim like that. But defense attorneys are going to do what they're going to do. Next is the obstruction of justice. And this came up both in the second bail hearing and today. Diddy's contacting witnesses. He's allegedly trying to blackmail them, maybe pay them off, because that's going to be his best defense at trial, Andrew, hoping that these witnesses either don't show up or that they go sideways and that they say this is all consensual. The third argument, probably the weakest, is that Diddy's a risk of flight. He could have taken off and he didn't. Obviously, he has access to private jets, but he has surrendered his passports. He didn't leave. So I think ranking them in sort of order, the strongest would be the danger, then the obstruction, and lastly would be the risk of flight.
Okay, what about the fact, though, that, and you heard this today, that even if he were granted bail and he was on some type of house arrest at his mansion in Miami, that it would be hard to monitor him? Is that a concern?
It's a real concern. I mean, Diddy's allegedly not following the rules in prison, and he's round the clock supervision. The people that he's tasking and hiring to supervise him and to watch him are his employees or independent contractors. They're on his payroll. Some of the people had their phones taken, they're alleged co-conspirators. I mean, these are parts of Diddy's security team and his entourage. So how can he be trusted when after the raid he was making these phone calls? In prison he was making these phone calls and contacting witnesses. It's probably going to be worse if he's out a free man for the months pending trial.
All right, Neama Rahmani, as always, can't thank you enough for your legal expertise. We've been talking about this case a lot here. A trial date is set for next May. You think that's fixed or fluid?
I think it's going to go in one of two ways. If Diddy remains in custody and if there is no superseding indictment alleging sex trafficking of minors or obstruction, I think the case will go to trial near that date because Diddy doesn't want to remain in custody. But if he is granted bond, I think is going to try to push this case out as far as possible. And that's one of the advantages the prosecution has. They want to move this case along, and I expect the defense to try to delay Diddy's under house arrest, enjoying his freedom.
All right, Neama Rahmani, thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Andrew. You too.